Well, hello and welcome once again to the 151st show presented by Loch Lomond Whiskies. It's Saturday, moving Saturday, and goodness me, some of the players have moved pretty sharply, which hopefully is going to set up a thrilling final round. I'm Marcus Buckland, here ready to assess what has happened today in the company of the Deputy Editor of Bunkered Magazine, Michael McEwan. Great to see you again, Michael.
Thank you, Marcus. Great to be here.
And top pro Robert Dinwiddie, who missed out on qualifying by just one shot. But the bonus for him is that he's been working for the Open Radio team, and here he is now ready to do this podcast, which you can also watch via the YouTube channel. If you just want to listen, I'm looking at us, that might not be a bad idea. Then the podcast is available via all your usual podcast receivers, or whatever the right word is. And David, our intrepid camera operator, is currently out about on the 18th. Now we've got the last two groups playing. Minwoo Lee and Sepp Straka are on the 18th green at the moment. They'll be followed down by Brian Harman, the overnight leader, of course, at the halfway stage, and Tommy Fleetwood. So when we get some oohs and some ahs, we'll react accordingly. Al, our producer, is listening to the Open Radio, so hopefully he knows exactly what's going on, and hopefully David's going to get lots of fantastic shots for us. We are standing just in front of the first tee box, and, you know, the first thing I've got to say, guys, is that it's a very pleasant early evening. We were told there was going to be rain, there was going to be wind, it would be like the end of the world. Not a bit of it, Michael.
Yeah, not so much Armageddon as Harmageddon at this moment in time, the way the scores have gone. And you mentioned at the top there, Marcus, it's moving day. The only thing that's not moved today really is the flags just fluttering away gently above the 18th grandstand. We were expecting to see them billowing around, but the forecasted wind just hasn't happened. There was a bit of rain, but not much rain, so benign conditions for the players, and I think that's been reflected in the scores that we've seen to this point.
Yeah, a whole host of scores in the 60s. It was out there to be got at.
No, it definitely was. After the first couple of hours this morning, when it was a little bit tough, the wind was sort of blowing from the south and the rain was coming in. Like when we came in for breakfast this morning, it looked like it was potentially going to be the day we were expecting, but after a few hours it certainly wasn't. The wind sort of laid down, turned around, switched from the same direction it's been coming from for the last 2 days, and then now literally for the last few hours to absolutely nothing. And I'd have to say that the pin positions were sort of set up for a Saturday, hoping that someone could make a move and make some birdies. So no wind and slightly easier pins. That's why we saw some better scoring.
Yeah, and the man who took advantage better than anybody else was Jon Rahm, who had steam coming out of his ears for much of Thursday and Friday, and started relatively quietly today, but ended up with an 8 under par 63. When he gets it going, he's a pretty decent player, isn't he?
Oh, that's putting it mildly. I mean, what an incredible round today by Jon Rahm. Like Rob said, with the conditions not being what was forecast, the pin positions, you kind of felt like somebody could maybe take it deep today. And John was the guy who has done it. I mean, a 63, I think that's only the 14th round of 63 or better in Open history. Maybe looks not quite as good given what Brandon Grace did with his 62 at Birkdale a couple of years ago, but yeah, phenomenal by Rahm. And I think when he finished up and went away and sat down with his wife Kelly and their kids and had his lunch, he'd been feeling pretty good about life. At one point earlier on, I did wonder if he was going to have even the clubhouse lead the way that the later starters went off, but it hasn't transpired that way.
No. I mentioned there was steam coming out of his ears at times on Thursday and Friday, but I did think also, Rob, that bearing in mind how volatile he can become at times, that he was pretty good at holding it back, and I wonder whether that actually helped him to find his A game today.
Yeah, I don't know. He did seem pretty cross. He was complaining, I think, about there being too many people inside the ropes, and everyone was focused more on Rory and getting in his way, and he couldn't even sort of get to his ball and get his yardage. Well, maybe being out in a 2-ball, not with Rory today, helped him, just focus on his own game. And it looks like slow-ish start, and then managed to shoot, I think, 30 on the back nine, which we've had the back nine the first 2 days, definitely the harder 9 holes, playing back into the wind off the left, so easy to just sort of carve one off right into trouble or into a bunker. That wasn't there today. They could even hit 2 irons off some of those tees, get it easily in position, and have mid irons with no wind to receptive greens, it was really set up for them.
Yeah, it was. Oh, David's appeared, by the way. He's so busy. He's got this amazing camera that I was saying yesterday it twirls, and I'm not technical, but it does amazing. It does make us look
Twirls
good.
like Scotty Scheffler's feet.
Exactly right. The same sort of movement. So, hello, David. He'll head off again in a moment, I think, to catch the closing moments of Brian Harman and Tommy Fleetwood. Well, straight after his round earlier today, Jon Rahm went to the practice ground, had a little tweak, and he also spoke to George Harper Jr., who's part of the Live at the Range team.
Jon Rahm, enjoy that drink, because that was a seriously hot round of golf. How did you enjoy that today?
It was extremely fun. Early on the morning when it was raining, it looked like it was going to be a bit of a battle, but I was of the mindset that today was a perfect day to make up shots, and I was able to just do that.
How crazy is it to look at your card? You were 1 under through 8, and then all of a sudden 8 under at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it's funny, all those holes that were the difficult stretches the last few days, it became the easy holes because they were downwind. So 11, 12, and 14 were playing much shorter, and again, I was able to take advantage of those in the par 5s. Obviously an extremely good back nine, right? I did everything I needed to do and made a few bonus putts.
How does it feel to be running that hot on a Saturday at the Open Championship?
I'm just happy to have done everything I could to put myself in contention. I said yesterday in media that it's great to make cuts and majors, but you want to be playing for the championships. And, I'm happy I'm back at it again.
Here we go. Welcome to the Open. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, what an opportunity perhaps for Jon Rahm tomorrow, though we'll update you on Brian Harman in just a moment. While we've been chatting, Minwoo Lee and Sepp Straka have completed their rounds. The noise we can hear at the moment is Tommy Fleetwood and Brian Harman heading on to the 18th green. Not the best of days for either Straka or for Minwoo Lee. In fact, it seemed for quite a long part of the day that although the scoring conditions were great, those really in contention, just when you thought they might take a step forward, actually went a step back.
Yeah, unfortunately so as well. I fancied Minwoo Lee in particular to do really well today. I love his ball flight. He's got that really low, trappy ball flight. He loves to hit a stinger. He plays with such confidence. He's a great character. And I feel like he's becoming a big-time player. He won the Scottish Open a couple of years ago, obviously, and demonstrated then that he knows how to win. But there's something about me. Some players have it, some players don't. That X factor or aura or whatever it is, that extra charisma that counts for a shot or two over the course of a tournament. Now, I think he has it. So I'm really surprised that he hasn't accelerated away today and really put a bit more pressure on Harman. It's a bit of a surprise. Sepp Straka, He's playing for more, I think, than the Claret Jug this week. Yes, that's the prize they all want, but a good week this week, and he's pretty much in the European Ryder Cup team. So I don't know if maybe a little bit of pressure and unfamiliarity with being in the final groups on the Saturday of a majors maybe caused him a few problems.
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on why it hasn't really happened for them.
So much is going on inside their minds. By the way, for all the scores, go to theopen.com or the app and you'll be able to see exactly what everybody did. I mean, you've experienced this sort of atmosphere, and as Michael said, players have got a lot going on in their minds. To be able to just fully focus on the job in hand when you realise, you've got an opportunity to get heavily involved in the greatest of all the majors, bit of a challenge.
Oh, it really is a challenge. There's always noise going on. It's never going to be totally quiet when you're over a shot. You got people hooting and hollering all over the place. It's like you really do need to sort of, even before you go out, say to yourself, I'm going to expect that. It's not going to be quiet. You need to really have the sort of the blinkers on, as it were. And the pressure, and then the pressure of you want to do well. It's not easy, and I said earlier, no wind, this is the perfect conditions. It is, but it is also still quite a difficult golf course. If you do get out of position, then it's a struggle. It is easy to still drop a shot, and I think particularly maybe at the end, 15 and 18, the par 5s were sort of howling downwind the first couple of days. Particularly 15, a real birdie eagle opportunity. We didn't have that today. They both were over 600 yards. Most of the guys were actually hitting a fairway metal into those holes in two. So that's maybe slowed the scoring down a little bit coming towards the end of today.
Yeah, and of course there's also that extra weight of expectation, I suppose. Oh, look, this is fantastic. I've got to do well. Now, one man who did, although I suspect he'll feel that he should have done even better because he was playing so well, was Cameron Young, who finished with a 5-under, 66 today. But if his putter had been working, Michael, I mean, he could have doubled that score, couldn't he?
Yeah, another Open, another Cameron Young performance where he's put himself right into the mix. And at this moment in time, we're not quite sure what's happening with Tommy Fleetwood over behind us at the moment on 18, but it looks at this moment in time like Cameron Young is going to be the guy that is going to be closest to Brian Harman going into the final round. He'll be in the final group with them, and like you say, had a few more putts dropped, I think we could have been all set for an epic Sunday shootout, a little bit like we had at Troon in 16 with Stenson and Mickelson potentially. But there's just so much to like about Cameron Young's game, isn't there? And I love the fact he plays with that demeanour where you don't know if he's just shot 5 over or 5 under. He's a very level, calm, just classy performer. A bit like DJ actually, a bit like Dustin Johnson.
Yeah. Oh.
Reminds
Let's
me
not
of
mention Dustin after his round on Friday.
Fuel the jet.
Yeah, absolutely. We can hear from last year's runner-up. He's, of course, looking to go one better this time.
It is difficult in general. I think out here it's in a sense almost easier because you have to be so on top of it just on this golf course. I think it's the kind of place where if you lose sight of where you need to miss or what the correct shot is at any point, it can bite you very quickly. So that's almost a blessing, I think, that it's difficult and requires a lot of your attention. But tomorrow will be just, obviously, Brian looks like he's going to come in, 5 or 6 ahead of me. And in that case, I think you just kind of have to see how the first couple of holes play out tomorrow, and then maybe you start aiming at some things you might not otherwise. But yeah, tomorrow we're going to plan on the same plan of attack as the last few days and kind of see where we are through a few holes.
Well, while we were listening to Cameron Young, Tommy Fleetwood completed his third round with a par on the 18th, so he has finished at 5 under, and I'm pretty sure that cheer signifies the fact that Brian Harman has just parred the 18th to finish at 12 under, which does mean that he ends the day as he started it with a 5-shot lead, but this time over Cameron Young. Now, he had 2 bogeys early on, and the pressure appeared to be on, but he's reacted magnificently to that, Rob.
Oh, he's reacted really well. He will have been nervy. 5-shot lead, you got all the things running through your head. Don't make a fool of yourself out there kind of stuff, and then to drop a couple early on, you're like, oh geez, this could get ugly potentially. But he's held his nerve, bounced back reasonably quickly, I think, with a couple of birdies, and then he's pressed on, I think. So he shot 2 under today with a 5-shot lead in the Open. That's a pretty good effort, and I mean, it surprised me a little bit.
There he is, just walking along the bridge
There
behind
they go.
us.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that looks like the confident stride of a guy that is going to win the Open Championship. He just, chest puffed out. He looks pretty pleased with life at the moment.
He does, and I'm glad that Tommy found time for a little kiss as well. He'll be a bit disappointed, but who knows what might happen. We have been saying throughout the week, of course, that with the closing holes here, and particularly if the weather does get bad tomorrow, with those closing holes, no lead is a big enough lead. You've got the par 3 17th where, we said we'll have anything from a 1 to an 8, and we come pretty close. We've had some 9s on the 18th, so I don't think anyone should think, it's all over, I'm not going to bother watching or listening.
I would hope they will watch, I would hope they will listen, but again, for Brian Harman to finish the day as he started, like Rob said, that ropey start, bear in mind he had an awful long time to think about leading the Open as well. He finished very early yesterday, it must have been about 18 hours I think between finishing and teeing off today. And then as he teed off, we had Jon Rahm just 50 metres away, 60 metres away, a huge roar going up for him completing his round. And I noticed that it was as Harman was teeing off that roar went up. So yeah, of course he must have felt a few jitters, and I think that explains the wobble early on. But to Rob's point, what an incredible bounce back.
A few other players we should touch upon. Jason Day, who at times this week has looked absolutely magnificent, like the player that was atop the world rankings not too long ago. And again, he was flying early on. He got pegged back just a little bit. The frustration was there. And also his playing partner, Shubhankar Sharma, had one eagle on the front nine, but his putter just let him down. He was shaving the hole constantly. How frustrating that must be. It always seems to me, though, it's either your day where they all go in. We know this as golfers, don't we? Well, I don't know that. I know the day when none of them go in. And that's basically what happened to him today, yeah.
Oh, I bet it's been like that for a lot of the guys. I was lucky enough to be out with Rory today and able to sort of go up and have a little look at a few of the putts from reasonably close up, and they're all, the greens are, for the most part, when you get on them, they're pretty flat, big runoffs either side and things like that. But so many of his putts looked so close to straight, little tiny subtle borrows, and Rory wasn't missing them by much. I'm sure those guys probably weren't missing them by much either. So I don't know. It was. I think it's tricky to read some of these very subtle breaks where it's just moving a ball one way or the other from 15 or 20 feet. But they're the momentum. That's what Harman's done, particularly yesterday. He didn't miss a fairway on the front nine, but then he, got in a bit of trouble early in the back nine, got up and down, hold those sort of 15, 20 footers, kept the momentum going. That was classic with the guys that I followed today was, playing great golf, then making just a slight mistake and dropping a shot, and then kind of it was that sort of rhythm. So, putting can be so key to getting a score out of your round. And Rory, Sharma, loads of those guys just haven't quite had that, but Harman has. He had 49 putts through the first two rounds, 25, 24 putts. That's pretty damn good going. So that could have been I'm sure that is a huge part of the difference.
Rory is 3 under par, so he's going to start the final round 9 shots back. We love fairy tales in sport. Is that asking too much?
Yeah, I think even Hans Christian Andersen would look at that script and go, nah, you're having a laugh, surely. I mean, listen, Rory, 2 under today, 69, so moving in the right direction on the leaderboard, but he should really have been 3 under after 3. He birdied 1, he birdied 3, missed probably the best look of the lot at 2. And then picked up another shot at 5, and that was it. He just stalled thereafter. I think he had something like 11 birdie putts across the round and made 4, so that kind of tells you where things were going wrong. Declined to speak to the media afterwards. I was waiting on Michael Stewart, a young Scottish guy, a bit of almost the Michael Block of this Open Championship, you could argue, given the way he qualified. He's done fantastically well, so well done, Michael. But I was waiting in there for him when Rory, the news came through that he was declining all media after his round. TV, radio, podcasts, us lowly journalists that are using our pens and slates to try and get work done. And he went straight to the putting green. And I watched him on the putting green and he missed everything he looked at. So confidence issues with the short stick for Rory, but I'm not really convinced that that's the only problem. He's not really given himself, whilst he's given himself a lot of birdie putts, he's not given himself many tight, close stuffed into the pin birdie putts. So there are a few problems for Rory to address, but it's a fairy tale too far, Marcus. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I paused there and I thought it could happen, but reality's kicked back in.
It would be outlandish, even as we've mentioned those closing holes tomorrow. And Tommy Fleetwood, obviously he is now, my maths is not very good, but he's 7 back, isn't he? And again, I mean, both those guys have got so much support. They want it so much, but 7 shots asking too much as well.
Yeah, unless Harman for some reason has an absolute disaster, then yeah, it is too much. Today will have been a really disappointing day for Tommy. I'm sure he's a proper links looking golfer, down the shaft, driving it in, flushes it pretty much every time. I haven't been lucky enough to see much of his golf from today, but by the score, I know that he'll be disappointed.
Yeah. Okay. Now some other players that we must mention: Fitzpatrick, but not Matt. Alex, he is 2 shots better off than his brother. He was 6 under for the day and 4 under for the Open. What a fantastic performance!
Absolutely brilliant. Let's not forget that Alex was on Matt's bag when Matt won the US Amateur in 2013, I think it was. There's a great photo of the two of them together, and there's young Alex, who could only have been 4'1" at the very, very most, and he's got his red USGA bib on, and he's helping him lugging the bag around. The bag's about the same size as he is. He makes Matt look tall in those photos, which is no mean feat. And for him to show up, I mean, let's not understate how difficult it is to come into an environment where your older brother's already had so much success. He's walking into an environment where there's pressure straight off the bat. But the thing I love about Alex is that he's quite different to Matt. Matt's quite quiet and quite stoic, and he's got quite a sort of sarcastic sense of humour, whereas Alex is he's got a much more outgoing personality, it seems, and there's a little bit of extravagance, maybe eccentricity even about him, but he's such a fantastic player to watch, and I'm delighted for him on his major debut as well. Sibling rivalry's just been upped a notch, you would argue.
At one point I was thinking, well, maybe they'll end up playing together on the Sunday, which would have been fantastic. I just wonder, I don't know Matt Fitzpatrick all that well, but do you think he's going to have a burning desire to ensure he finishes above his brother come Sunday night?
Of course, yeah, brotherly love, that, isn't it?
Yeah,
You're
but equally you could say, actually, you know what, you've done brilliant. I've got my major. I'm pleased for you. I'm not going to make this a big deal.
He'll have said, "Well done, bro," while gritting his teeth, probably, you know. And he'll be certainly out there to do his best job of beating him again tomorrow. But that's you need that brotherly love. That's probably why they're such good golfers, because they've had that kind of stuff going on all through their lives. That sort of competitive.
It's
nature.
the other prize, isn't it? It's top Fitzpatrick at the Open. It's the one that everyone wants.
Yeah. Well, Matt Fitzpatrick, if he goes home, he may have won a US Open, but if he's not even the best golfer in his family anymore, then what can he do? Somebody else who hit back brilliantly today, Victor Hovland, who started birdie bogey but ended up 5 under for the day, 5 under for the championship. He's an eternal contender, but for whatever reason it wasn't happening for the first couple of days, so he's 7 back. I mean, again, I appreciate these are big margins, but he's a big time player.
Big time player, but too far back for me at this point in time. I love Victor Hovland. He seems to have got over the issues that plagued him early in his pro career. He was a dreadful chipper. I mean, my goodness, there were times that I thought I could do better, but and that's telling you just how bad it was, my word. But he seems to have turned a corner there, and yeah, you're right. It's a bit like I was saying earlier on, with guys stepping up and becoming big time golfers, and Hovland is that, and I would argue he has been that for some time. Played very well at the Open last year, was right in the mix until Sunday when it kind of drifted for him. So not surprised to see him playing well here. At some point he's going to have to take the next step. He's been performing well Masters and Opens, and at some point he's going to have to be a real factor on Sundays, and I think at this point he's just too far back to be there.
I think the group that's just walking past us, having come out of the 18th, they've had a very good day.
Yeah,
from
they've
the sounds.
had what I want.
Yeah, well, we've got a team dinner coming up, so just be patient, and we'll finish things off. Now, mainly because he just likes him as a golfer, our producer Al keeps asking me to talk about Tom Kim. And to be fair, he was 3 under again today. On the podcast yesterday, he'd had a very good second round. We had Peter Finch and Sophie Walker, who wrote off his chances. Oh, no, there's no way, especially if the weather gets up, we won't hear from him again. But he keeps on going. Yeah,
well, I think he's started playing particularly well, hasn't he, just over the last not even year or so. His name's kind of come up. Has he won on the PGA Tour? I think
he's won a couple of times, but nothing recent.
No, but why are we talking about Tom?
Oh, well, because of the man behind the camera, Al. We don't have to talk too much about him. I'd like to ask you about Max Homer as well, who was playing with Rory today. He's got such a lovely game. Had a fantastic birdie on 17, but again, didn't seem to happen for him.
No, I mean he played pretty solid. Trying to remember some of his round. I was so focused on Rory, but obviously a really good golfer. They both. I mean, it was so nice being out watching those guys playing golf today. Like, I mean, just hitting. I mean, the sound when Rory hits a golf ball really is, and Max too. They were, I mean, flushing the ball. It was so nice to go out and watch them. Yeah, Max, I'm sure he struggled, but just no real momentum with the putt. A couple of loosest shots coming down the back nine for both of them. Rory, couple of leaked sort of shots from 150 yards, which you'd have thought he could have maybe done a bit. He will, I'm sure, think he should have done better with, which did end up resulting in a bogey and losing momentum. Same for Max. Yeah, But I'm sure they'll go out and get stuck in tomorrow. The only way that anyone is going to really have a chance is if the weather that might be looks forecast is really, really, really bad, and Harman's grips get so wet he can't hold on to the club anymore.
Well, hang on. Now, we want to make it sound more exciting than that. A 5-shot lead is a good lead, but, you know, when you're going for your first major title, particularly at the Open, and you've got the likes of Jon Rahm on fire, of course, after today, Cameron Young, who, as we said, he could easily have had an 8 or a 9 under today. So what do you reckon, Michael? Could there still be a tale of the unexpected?
So in the interest of making it as interesting as you would like, Marcus, then yes, of course there could be. I do think that Harman now has enough of a lead where he just doesn't look like he's making a huge number of mistakes, bar that early wobble today. And I think there may be an early wobble again tomorrow. He's bound to be nervous. I don't care what anybody says, for any player, winning these championships means a lot. This is the Open Championship, for goodness sake. It's the oldest, it's the most important, it's the most special. Look at the thing you'll be holding on that green on Sunday night. We all want that. I mean, I'm never going to hit a competitive shot. I want it. You know, I still dream of having that moment. So Brian Harman will go to bed tonight and he'll have that dream too. He's just in a really commanding place. But winning major championships is difficult. Winning golf tournaments is difficult. That's why Rory McIlroy hasn't won a major for close to now 10 years. A man that talented, who's won 4 of them before, who's going to go down as one of the legends of the game, hasn't won a major for a decade. It's because it's extremely hard to do so. So whilst Harman's a great lead at the moment, we're only 3/4 of the way through it. There's another quarter still to go. Think about basketball. You know, that's split into quarters. How many teams have got that match all wrapped up? Chicago Bulls, Golden State Warriors, whoever it might be, with a quarter to go. So it ain't done. It just kind of looks like it might be.
Same with the NFL. Of course, you never know. And I mean, even today, although he got it back to 5 by the end, almost in the blink of an eye, it was down to 3. It was coming down to 2. So, you know, I still think, particularly with that 17th and that 18th, and if we get the weather, I think we've given up kind of trying to work out what the weather is going to do, because I mean, we're going to sunbathe after this podcast. But despite all that, I get the feeling that you're pretty certain that Brian Harman's going to have that claret jug tomorrow evening.
Oh, I'll cover my bum and say that. No, of course not. No, it will be no. 5. You're totally right. 5 shots, like it got whittled down to 2. I think at some.
Yeah.
No, it can't. It's more talking about guys 7 or 8 back. That's probably going to take. That's probably a little bit far fetched. Certainly, a Rory winning it. He's got. I don't know. He'd have to shoot 10 under probably, and that's probably not going to happen, especially if the weather is brutal tomorrow. But okay, we'll keep all options open. But no, it's good. He will be nervy. You know, all it takes is getting in one of these bunkers, getting a horrible lie, and you know, taking a couple to get out, and suddenly that's a couple gone. Now it's 3. All to play for. He won't be taking He won't be getting complacent about anything. That's for sure.
And I'm thinking of 1999. How far back was
10
Paul
shots,
Lawrie? So
famously 10 shots. Don't think I've forgotten. My goodness,
no.
That was unbelievable. But a different course set up that day. Truly horrific conditions, and it had been for most of the week. And you know, a little bit of a collapse, shall we say, on the 72nd by Mr. Van de Velde. Things can happen, you know. It's the greatest sporting theatre that I think we get as the Open Championship, and so yes, there should be some drama tomorrow. But yeah, I'm just struggling to see past Brian Harman doing it. And let's not forget, he'd be the 5th left-hander to win a major championship, and only, I think, the 3rd to win the Open after Mickelson and Sir Bob Charles. So a little bit of history and some very illustrious company for him to join.
Yeah. Well, I'm sensing just a couple of drops of rain, and this could be the prelude to a horrendous day of weather that will throw everything up in the air. But for now, Michael, thank you very much
Absolute
for
pleasure.
your time. And Robert, thank you. You'll be back out on the course as part of the Open Radio team. And, well, whatever happens, you'll be able to follow the action and listen to the action. And somebody will definitely hoist that claret jug aloft and be named Champion Golfer of the Year. We'll react to it all on the podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the Open's YouTube channel as well. You'll get to see Robert's legs as an added bonus. But from me, Marcus Buckland, thank you very much indeed for watching the 151st show presented by Loch Lomond Whiskies.